There we go. We are recording. Fantastic. Yay. And welcome everyone to Tapping the Potential of Your Dream Team. I'm Ingrid Edstrom of Polymath LLC, and I'm here with my co-host for this webinar today, Dr. Sabrina Starling of Tap the Potential. Dr. Sabrina is a business psychologist and human resources expert, and I am so happy that she and I get to talk about business culture and team dynamics as this final installment in our four-part series leading up to the National Tour Association's Contact Conference in March. If you missed the first three webinars in this series, be sure to check out the replays on YouTube. You can find each of those on our website, polymath.com. The overarching theme for this webinar series is business evolution. How do we recognize what changes are needed in our businesses? How do we implement those changes without undue stress? Sabrina has some really great tips for us today on how to do that with our teams. And we're going to go ahead and keep this one nice and conversational. No PowerPoint slides. So if you have a question, please go ahead and just post it in the chat. We recommend keeping the chat window open during our time together today so that you can post questions for us as we go. To make sure that everyone has a good understanding of those chat tools, please go ahead, take a moment now and just tell us where you're from in the chat window. Be sure to use the little drop-down menu to include all panelists and attendees. That way everyone can see your comments and benefit from your thoughts, not just the two of us. That's always fun. So with that, let's do some brief introductions. Sabrina, do you want to start by telling us a little bit about yourself and Tap the Potential? And then I'll introduce myself and Polymath.
Absolutely, Ingrid. I'm happy to do that. I'm very happy to be here with you all on this Friday afternoon. And I'm a psychologist by training. I completed my doctorate and then I went to work in the community mental health world. And I noticed something as I was going through my training to be a psychologist. And what I noticed is I worked in some places that were really great and they were fun. And I got excited to go to work every day. It felt like, oh, I get to go to work. And then I worked in other places, also run by trained mental health professionals, where it just felt like I had to drag myself out of bed and I was miserable. And I really suffered some, bullying in the workplace. I had a bully boss and all that. And I thought, this is crazy. If mental health professionals cannot figure out how to make a great place to work and a great culture, how can we expect the rest of the world to do this? I mean, it is such a challenging thing to do. So my career has evolved over the years, and I got away from mental health work and moved into coaching. Found myself coaching a lot of small business owners who had employee problems. And I just loved rolling up my sleeves and helping them figure out, how do I engage my team members? And if I don't have good team members, how do I go about getting good team members? And that's how I came to write my book, How to Hire the Best. And I'm now into a series on how to hire the best. And so I'm excited to be here with you today to just talk about, how do you really tap the potential of your team? And I know so many of you are growing in your business, so this is a really big issue. So that's enough about me. Ingrid, let's hear a little bit about you. Can you tell us about yourself?
Yeah, well, I can attest to your fantastic work in working with businesses on teams, because I've known Sabrina for about 4 years now, and we have worked with her professionally, getting some great insight into creating the business culture that we want here at Polymath and creating the team that we're looking for and getting rooted in our why. So I'm excited to talk about those things today. So with that, a little bit about me and our business. Hi, everyone. I'm Ingrid Edstrom. I am the Priestess of Profits at Polymath LLC. Yes, that is my actual title. I love spreading the gospel of healthy business, and you can find Polymath on YouTube, doing everything from hoity-toity webinars for other accounting professionals, as well as fun business education videos with puppets. Yes, I said with puppets. It is because of our love for helping others that we've been getting some pretty amazing recognition in the accounting world. For example, CPA Practice Advisor magazine has recognized me as one of the top 40 under 40 and one of the most powerful women in accounting, despite the fact that I am not a CPA. I am a self-educated bookkeeping professional who teaches other accounting professionals how to have more fun. And that's also the main reason why our firm has been recognized as an Intuit firm of the future and is featured in the book, The World's Most Inspiring Accountants. It is pretty cool and a little weird. My business partner, Vanessa, and I are total nerds who actually love accounting. We also love travel. Those two things are like chocolate and peanut butter to us. We love tour entrepreneurs. You are adventurous, curious, free spirits who deeply care about our world and the people in it. And we chose to specialize in tours and activities businesses because we love working with entrepreneurs who love what they do, who enjoy learning new things, and who love developing real relationships through their amazing work. We love supporting the businesses that help us to experience all of the wonder and adventure in the world around us. So I want to thank each of you for being here with us today. Our vision at Polymath is to make the world a better place, built on a foundation of thriving small businesses. Helping you succeed and helping you follow your dreams fulfills my greater purpose on this planet. We learned a lot of this stuff so that you don't have to. You don't have to become an accountant to have a good understanding of your business finances, and you don't have to be a human resources specialist to have a great team. We've created a bunch of fantastic educational resources for our friends at the National Tour Association, and now we get to give those resources to you to have at your fingertips. So with that, Sabrina, do you want to go ahead and introduce our topics for today?
Yes. So I want to just acknowledge that we're going to have a lot of fun, and everything that Ingrid said is so aligned with how I see the world. I've spent a lot of time really studying how do you create a great place to work as a small business owner? And I want to just kind of boil it down today to the essentials to give you here's where you need to focus, because the reality is, as a small business, you have more opportunity than a large corporation to create a great place to work. So much easier for you to do that. And the other challenge is that you wear a lot of hats. You are juggling a lot of responsibilities. There's lots of things you need to learn, like bookkeeping and all this accounting stuff. And it's in addition to everything that you need to know as a tour operator to be effective, and you need to know marketing. And then now you need to hire people, and now you need to be a mini psychologist and make it a great place to work. It's overwhelming. So I just want to give you what the essentials are that you need to know. And I want to bring to you what I know about how people learn best. As a psychologist, I know how to help you learn and what are the most essential things to do. So that's where we're going today. So what we're going to talk about is, what can you do as a business owner to ensure that you have the right people on your team, that they're in the right roles, and that you are leading them effectively. That's our big, big topic. And then we're going to get into, once you have those ingredients in place, how do you really tap the potential of that dream team? So Ingrid, you ready to get started?
I think so, Sabrina. So how do we get the right people on our teams?
Well, I know one shorthand way to help you really zero in on those right people. And it really goes against everything we have been led to believe about how we should hire. We tend to think we need to go looking for a skill set. And I'm going to tell you today that if you start hiring around skill set, you're going to get a lot of frustration. You're going to get people who look really good on paper, who interview decently, and then you bring them in and you're just going to be banging your head against the wall. They're going to drive you crazy. So if it's not skill set that you want to hire for, what is it? And it boils down to what we call immutable laws. And our immutable laws are our core values. Each and every one of us has 3 to 5 core values that really define who we are and how we show up in the world. It's how we do life. And we know our immutable laws have been violated when we get upset, when we get angry, when we're crying in frustration because an employee drove us nuts and they keep driving us nuts, and we've had the same conversation over and over and over. Oh my gosh, that's a sign right there. They are not a good fit. And it's about the immutable laws and the core values. And so just to give you an example of immutable laws, I had a client who had some really great team members, but one thing that they constantly did that drove him crazy is they would show up late. And so week after week, he would come to his coaching call and he would tell me they're showing up late. And I tell them they need to be here on time and they're showing up late. And finally, one day I just said, could you please, let's just back the bus up here a minute. Could you tell me what showing up late means? And he said, well, yeah, I was raised that when you're on time, you're actually 10 minutes early. So when you show up, if I tell you to be here at 8 o'clock, I expect you to be here at 7:50. And I said, what time are your team members getting there? And he said, 8 o'clock. And I said, okay, we have, and this is an unspoken rule that you have been living by all your life. It's not a right or wrong judgment. You may be right. I'm not judging that. But your team members are hearing something totally different when you're telling them to show up on time. Let's clarify what your immutable law is. Let's make it explicit, take it out of the background of who you are and bring it forward and document it. Tell your team on time means 10 minutes early. And once he did that, they started showing up 10 minutes early. Sometimes they were 5 minutes early, but he wasn't frustrated. He didn't feel like that was late because they were still there before the 8 o'clock time period. So all of us have these unspoken rules that we live by, and we see them when we get upset and frustrated, but we can also see them when we start looking at where are we most proud in our business. And what are the things that are going on that make our hearts sing? And when we feel totally happy and inspired by what we're doing at work or what our team members are doing, that's a sign right there that that's an immutable law. And so we want to capture what these immutable laws are. And then we want to hire people who have core values that align with our immutable laws. That prevents so much strife in the workplace. If we can just get that one thing right, a lot of other things go much more smoothly.
I love that, Sabrina. And getting a little bit deeper in how to define our immutable laws. One of the things that I noticed when Vanessa and I were going through this process with you was we were talking about when somebody does something that is just so mind-blowing to us, of how can somebody live that way? That's a really good indicator that maybe somebody tripped over one of our immutable laws.
Exactly. So Ingrid, I know you have some awesome immutable laws. What are one or two of yours?
Oh, I love art. So our first immutable law is the answer is always love. And I feel like that's really important to get back around to, that no matter what else is going on in our lives, we need to have a clear, true north. And that for us, it comes down to love. We have to love each other. We have to love what we do. We need to love our clients and what they do. And so long as that is the main thing guiding us, everything else becomes so much more clear. Things become less frustrating because it's a huge attitude and mindset adjustment. And we want to make sure that we're bringing on other people who are willing to root themselves in the answer being love. And if somebody comes in who's like, well, that's a bunch of tree hugging hippie crap, they're probably not a fit for our team.
Screen them out right there. They don't fit. So did everyone who's listening, did you catch how Ingrid started? She said, I love our immutable laws. That is what we're after. We want to have our core values so clear and explicit. And anytime we get to talk about them, we light up, and we want our team members to do the same.
Yeah. It used to be that we would hire people, like you said, based on their resume and bring them in, and everything would look great on paper. And then we couldn't figure out why it just didn't feel right. And we don't have that problem so much anymore. Now it's hire slow, fire fast, and making sure that everything feels right. Because the people that we bring into our teams here, we spend more time with our colleagues here at work than we do with our families. Yes. More waking hours anyway. Yes. If we're going to spend a huge amount of our lives with people, they better be people that we like.
Right. Well, and if you think about it, when you're choosing someone that you're going to be who you're going to marry or be with the rest of your life, you put a lot of thought into, do the values match? So why don't we do that in the workplace? Like, that's key, really, is do the values match?
Absolutely. So once we have our immutable laws, what do we do with them? Do we carve them in stone and hang them on the conference room wall because they're never, ever going to change? Do we post them in our lobby, on our website? Or is there something more that we can do with our immutable laws?
Yeah. So you can carve them in stone. I have known some people who have had really decorative things done with their immutable laws, and they're very proud of them. But really, we want first off, we want them everywhere and anywhere. We do want them on our website. We want them in all of our marketing materials, brochures that you're sending out, anything, anything that you're doing online. Social media is a great place to share your immutable laws, just through storytelling. This wonderful thing happened today, and this is who we are at Travel and Adventure Tours. And that's just sharing your immutable laws. And the most important thing that you can do with your immutable laws is every chance you get, tell stories that relate to your immutable laws. And let me just I'll share a story with you about my immutable laws so you can understand what I mean. We have an immutable law at Tap the Potential called Be a Gift from Your Gifts. This came about for me because about 5 or 6 years ago, I was on a retreat and I was walking and talking with one of my good friends and colleagues, and she was just asking me about my life and how things were going. And I said, business is going great, but I'm a little stressed personally. And she said, well, what's going on? And I said, I'm helping a friend. She's trying to put on a large meal for church. It's for the community, and they need help in the kitchen. And she's asked me to help in the kitchen, and I am really stressing about this. And my friend said, why are you so stressed? And I said, because I've never cooked for large groups of people. I grew up in a small family. I have a small family. 5 is my max. Anything beyond that, and I'm kind of like, whoa, I don't know what to do here. And so she said, well, is there any other way that you could support the effort at the church that your friend is trying to do? And I said, well, sure. What I really want to do is I want to be out there handing out flyers in the community and marketing the event rather than in the kitchen cooking. And she said, well, why don't you just do that? And I said, well, I have been doing that. And she said, why can't that just be enough? And I was like, oh, yes, it could just be enough. And that made me very aware that I have a gift. I love marketing. I do that day in and day out. And so I can show up and be a gift from my gifts. It does not drain energy from me. It gives me energy. And that's how I want us to be at Tap the Potential. I want us being a gift. I'm here doing this webinar because I love giving this information and sharing. I'm being a gift from my gifts because this is fun for me. It's not draining energy. So now I've just told you a story about my immutable laws. That's likely to stick for you. If it resonated, if you hold that same immutable law, like Ingrid was nodding along, I think our immutable laws kind of match here. I might hire Ingrid at some point. No, I don't think she's looking for a job. But that's when you're in an interview, you want to tell stories about your immutable laws and watch the interviewee in front of you and see, are they nodding along? Are their eyes lighting up? Or are they sitting there looking at you like you landed from a different planet? If you see that kind of expression, or you see the arms crossed and this like, why are they telling me this look? That's a sign that there may not be a good fit with the immutable laws. And so we want to tell stories about those immutable laws. We want to breathe life into them at every chance we get, because these are the seeds of our culture in our small businesses.
Fantastic. Yeah, I love Be a Gift from Your Gifts. And, we have similar things in our immutable laws that are not quite plagiarizing yours. But it's amazing when we've done workshops with you and such like that, and we're sharing immutable laws, how many immutable laws get passed around. Yeah. And then we leave those workshops friends, because we see how many of our core values we have in alignment with each other. Now, Sabrina, before I move on to the next question that I have for you, I've got a very important question from the chat. Darren Sweet is wondering if there's an e-version of your book, because we're looking at the Amazon and it looks like it's not on Kindle. Do you have an electronic version of How to Hire the Best?
No, but I will tell you, Darren, if you want to get the e-version, what you really need to get is my free masterclass on how to hire the best. So you just go over to howtohirethebest.com and you can get that, and it'll be all good. So I am working, and then with the next edition that's coming out, there will be an Audible book of that, and there will be an e-version, but just not for the first edition.
Fantastic. So with the immutable laws, how can a company's immutable laws change over time, depending on the stage of the business that they're in? We've had a lot of discussion over our last 3 webinars about predictable success in particular, which is Les McCune's fantastic book about the life stages of a business. How can immutable laws change depending on the stage of the business that we're in? And we've got some brand new baby startup businesses that might be on the call. And then there's also family businesses where maybe the next generation's inherited the business. How can each of these different companies evolve and change as the people within them grow and evolve and change?
Yeah. So let me take the startup side first, because that's the easiest side. You really, as the business owners, you're getting the opportunity to define the immutable laws in your startup. And then as your business grows, you will add people to your leadership team, but hopefully you're hiring around your immutable laws. The key word in immutable laws is immutable, which means unchanging. We pretty much are who we are with our values. They may evolve over time, but that's pretty core to who we are. Now, as we get into second, third generation businesses or businesses, and this happens in a lot of small businesses, as you grow, because you need similar immutable laws, the easiest place to hire is within your family. And so you bring on more family members, and it is possible that those immutable laws will change somewhat over time as the composition of the team changes. We see it a lot when we have a second generation taking over the business, that the first generation owners have a different way of doing things, a different outlook on life than the second generation coming into the business. So I think that creates a really good opportunity for discussion around, gee, mom or dad, this is how you see life. These are the things that are important to you. I was raised with many of those values. I understand that. And here's my values. And it's very important as we go into this next generation with the business that I really feel like it's a reflection of who we are and the next generation. So there's the opportunity for discussion. And I think it's really important that the immutable laws get fleshed out and discussed. And even into going into a new partnership, if you ever are looking into entering into a business partnership, having that conversation around the immutable laws becomes very critical.
Absolutely. Well, and what an amazing teaching tool for family businesses or families that don't have businesses, because it's so often that kids grow up around values, but they end up learning those values through osmosis. Parents don't actually call them values. They're not explaining the deeper whys of things, and kids end up gathering those tidbits by guesswork. If we want to pass our values along to our kids, then calling them immutable laws and saying, this is what we believe in, this is why, and letting them know that maybe you have slightly different values than I do. You're going to grow and change over time too, but these are the values that we're growing up with, and really thinking about it gets us to be more self-aware people and raises our kids to be more self-aware people.
Absolutely. And on that note, I have several clients who have taken a lot of the steps that they use to run their businesses effectively into their families, including having beautiful displays of the family core values when you walk in the door. And those came through discussion with their kids, so like family meetings. And if that intrigues you in any way, a book that I highly recommend is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Families.
Ooh.
All of that is talked about in there at great length.
Is that also by Stephen Covey, or is that by somebody else?
I want to say it's by Stephen Covey, but I could be wrong. It's been years since I read it, but it's one book that really stuck with me.
Because Stephen Covey wrote the original 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Right.
So I haven't read the families one. That sounds great.
Yes.
So what are the cues that changes to immutable laws may be needed, and how does a business go about implementing changes to core values and immutable laws?
Frustration. I think when there are different team members who keep butting heads and they're on the leadership team, if you think about it, if you're a child in a family with parents who argue and fight all the time, that's what it feels like to be a team member in a business when the leadership team holds different core values and immutable laws. And so it's very important when that frustration is happening within the leadership team to get curious, ask questions, and just say, wow, I noticed that for you, it's really important that we just make money. And for me, it's important that we treat our customers well and make money. I'm feeling kind of frustrated with some of the choices you're making. They don't sit well with me. Can we look at our immutable laws and figure out, is there a better way to do this? And quite honestly, when there's an immutable law conflict among the leadership team in a business, a lot of times it's a parting of ways that comes about, because immutable laws don't change, but it at least gets it on the table and there's an opportunity for discussion.
Yeah. Well, and it creates opportunity for growth, because sometimes we don't realize we maybe are not in full integrity with our own immutable laws, or somebody speaks an immutable law and maybe it rings a bell of, oh, I haven't been doing that. And that might be why these things in my life are not going as effectively as I want them to. Perhaps that's an immutable law that would help me be a better person. And then we can bring in the immutable laws that we want to have in our lives that can help us be more effective people.
The key word that you said there, Ingrid, is being in integrity. Mm-hmm. We feel so much happier and better when we are in integrity. And when we feel like, well, I've been selling out something that's really important to me. A lot of times we can't put our finger on it. We have this vague sense of dissatisfaction or unhappiness, and we're not sure where it's coming from. Once we identify what these immutable laws are, it becomes very easy to see, oh, that's why I don't want to go to work anymore. Oh, that's why my team members have been driving me crazy.
Yeah. Well, and integrity is one of my favorite words. When you break down the meanings of words, the root of the word integrity is the same as the root of the word integer. It means to be whole. So in order to truly be in integrity, we have to bring our whole selves to the table. We can't just kind of leave. It's not a separation of business and personal where, oh, we leave the rest of our lives at the door and we put on our professional veneer. That doesn't work. There needs to be a level of vulnerability and authenticity, and ensuring that we can be people with our team, and that our team members are allowed to be human also, are allowed to make mistakes, are allowed to grow and change. Otherwise, the environment is not sustainable.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we hire people who fit with our immutable laws. What else do we need to be considering when we're hiring?
Okay. So this gets into my favorite topic, and that's personality, because, I'm a psychologist after all. We've got to go there. When you're looking to hire, and like if you're a startup and this is your first hire, you've been wearing all the hats. And so our natural tendency is to just look at, oh my gosh, I need somebody who can do 50 things for me because I've been doing 100. And if they can take 50 things off my plate, my life's going to be a lot better. And so then we start looking for, okay, I need somebody who can do some social media. I need somebody who can do some data entry and bookkeeping for me. And I need somebody who can cover the phones. And all of a sudden, now we're jumping from one skill set to another. So when we start hiring, it's really important to look at, what is the role that I'm going to hire for? And if that person can only get one critical thing done for me each day or each week, what is that result that I need from the person in that role? And be sure when you're thinking through that result that you can see a direct relation to the profitability of the company. Like, how does that result translate into profit? But once you have that result clearly defined, then you want to think about what kind of personality strengths, not personality characteristics, but real strengths does someone need to have to get that result day in and day out and to do it exceptionally well. And to illustrate this, I'll tell a little story. A few years back, I had a client who was a startup, and he had a kiosk in the mall, and he had been selling his product. It was a food product. He'd been selling it at the kiosk. He'd been doing everything. He'd been making it. He'd been marketing it. He would stand in that kiosk and he would wave at people across the mall and say, hey, do you want to try a sample? Come on over here. This is really good. I think you'll like it. And so when he got ready to hire, he decided that his next person that he needed would be somebody who could stand at the kiosk and get people to come over and try the product. And so he hired a few of his college buddies to do that. And he was very frustrated because 2 days in, they were on their phones, they were texting, people were walking by right in front of him. They weren't even making eye contact. And he said, I don't know what to do. I need to be in the back making the product, and they're not doing what I need them to do. What is wrong with them? And so he was asking me, can I coach them? Can you teach me some tricks to get them to engage? And I said, no. I don't think that's what we've got here. And I said, tell me a little bit more about your friends. What are they like? And so he kind of went on to describe them. And he said, they're kind of quiet and reserved. And I said, do do you think you've hired introverts who are masquerading as extroverts? And he stopped for a minute and he said, well, what's an extrovert and what's an introvert exactly? And so I went on to explain, introverts get their energy, they recharge their batteries by alone time. Being on their phone, shutting down and being away from people is a way they recharge their batteries. Extroverts recharge their batteries by waving at people across the mall and saying, hey, come over here, and starting conversations and being around people. That recharges batteries. They get drained, an extrovert's batteries drain by alone time, where an introvert's batteries drain by a lot of people interaction. So I think the pattern that you're seeing is they have a lot of energy at the start of the day, but very quickly their batteries are draining and they're getting on their phone because they need to recharge. And once he had that awareness, he came back to the next call and he had hired again, and he had hired somebody, and we had talked about some ways that he could screen for an extrovert versus an introvert. He'd hired somebody and they were doing a great job. They stood in the kiosk, they were waving people over. And I was real clear with him. I said, you need to keep them in that role. Don't start getting them on, in the back doing things, keep them in the role. And they did fine ever since. So we want to know what are the strengths that are needed to do that role exceptionally well and hire for that, in addition to the immutable laws.
I love that so much. And that's something that you helped us with, Polymath, quite a bit as we were trying to figure out who's the next person we want to bring on. And in talking with you, we realized that we had a little too much on that job description. We often don't realize as entrepreneurs who wear a lot of hats and are extremely skilled at building the plane as we fly it, that not everybody is that way, and that some people have more specific areas of forte. And that if we're looking for somebody who can answer the phone and do some marketing things and keep track of the books, that might be 3 different people.
Yeah.
And one thing that helped Vanessa and I a lot was creating our organizational chart. And the way that Vanessa and I did that was we took a pad of Post-it notes and we wrote down on each Post-it note every task that we were performing within our business. And then we aligned those tasks on our whiteboard in departments, and we circled the ones in blue that I was currently doing, circled the ones in yellow that Vanessa was currently doing, and then we went back through and circled the ones in black that we would like to delegate. Mm-hmm. And we realized that we have things that we want to delegate from different departments. And if they're from different departments, they're likely going to be different people. Yeah. If tasks are in alignment and are close to each other, like, answering the phone and maybe doing email stuff, that correspondence, Vanessa and I need to hire a professional extrovert. As much as, we can do webinars and public speaking and that kind of thing. These are learned skills. Vanessa and I are both introverts.
Yep. So, and I'm the same way. I am an introvert, and I could not do webinars 10 hours a day. I would be a zombie. I can do it for a couple hours a day, and I'm happy to do that. So, and there's other ways that we need to think through strengths, but the introvert and extroversion one are key. Another one that's really common is, does the role require detail orientation? If you're hiring a bookkeeper, they need to pay attention to details. That's kind of important.
Absolutely. Well, and getting back into our previous webinars and how they fit so well with what we're discussing today, predictable success and the different personality types in predictable success: visionary, operator, processor, and synergist. 4 extremely different personality types with different communication styles and totally different fortes, each of whom is needed in a business in order to get the business to a state of predictable success where the business can scale. And a lot of times, those 4 personality types don't communicate very effectively together, particularly the visionary and the processor. So learning how to work really effectively with somebody who's very good at their job, even if you disagree with them, because maybe part of their job is to hold you accountable.
Yes. And so that is so, I'm really glad you're pointing that out, Ingrid, because it happens all the time on teams. The people who have the strengths we don't have are very different from us, and they can drive us crazy until we learn to appreciate, they have a different set of strengths, and I need those strengths on my team because I'm not so good at those things.
Absolutely. So what happens when we have team members who are working from their strengths?
Okay. So what's interesting is that A players are 900 to 1200% more productive than your average team member. So let me just back the bus up here a minute and define what I mean by A player. So A players are your team members who are highly motivated. They are problem solving go-getters. If you put a challenge in front of them, they will go around, through, over. They don't just stop and say, oh, I'll wait till Ingrid gets back. I don't know what to do. That's not an A player. An A player is going to be like, Ingrid told me she needs this. I don't know what to do, but I'm going to go Google. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to go look at that training video she made for me. I'm going to figure out what needs to be done. That's an A player. And so when you have those folks on your team, you have the potential for them to be 900 to 1200% more productive than your average team member, as long as they are working from their strengths. If they are not working from their strengths, you can have an A player and they're going to look like your most disengaged employee over time because they're not in the right role for them. If you think about, I bet all of us on this call have had different job experiences. And I know for myself, there's some jobs I've had where I've shown up as an A player. There are other jobs I've had where I was showing up late and leaving early. I did not look like an A player. And it was because I was not working from my strengths.
I love that. And it fits so nicely in with the first webinar that we were talking about. Alyssa Keschel from American Music Theater was talking about the differences between rock stars and coasters on our teams.
Yes.
And having the rock stars and the coasters. And I feel like this is right in alignment. So for those of you who are watching right now, who've kind of been with us throughout the 4 webinars, when we're talking about A players, we're talking about those rock stars. And Alyssa had a great video that she used to explain this, where she showed a corgi on a treadmill that was chucking along. And then it showed a different corgi on a treadmill next to that one, where it was standing on the side and just kind of pawing the treadmill. So we've got the rock star that's like, I'm doing the thing. And then we've got the coaster who's showing up. They're there physically, a warm body in a seat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So aligning with strengths.
Yep. So if we have some team members already and we're starting to think that maybe they're not in the right roles, what are some signs that we should be looking for to figure that out?
Okay, so we've already started to identify that. The pawing at the treadmill is a sign. When someone is procrastinating repeatedly on a task after you've had multiple conversations and they acknowledge that they understand that that task is important, but it's still not getting done, that's a good sign that they are being asked to do something that's outside their strengths. So if for ourselves, I think we need to notice what we procrastinate on. I used to have a storyline in my business that I did not need to delegate bookkeeping or bring in any help because I could do it and I liked doing it. Yet inevitably that would be happening at 4:00 on Friday afternoon and it would keep me there late. I clearly did not like bookkeeping because if I did, I would be doing it on Monday morning at 8:00. So what the things that we procrastinate on are the signs. And when we have team members and we're starting to suspect they are outside their strengths, their zone of strengths, that's really where we need to start having conversations. And instead of accusing and getting blame focused, like, what is wrong with you? I've told you 20 times I need those books done by 8:00 on Wednesday. And here it is Friday and I still don't have my books. What's wrong with you? Just come at it from the perspective of, I notice that you're really not getting this done and it doesn't seem to be something that you enjoy doing. What is your experience of this task? And have that conversation. And then start to look at, is there any way to shift the different responsibilities on the team so that somebody who has an area of strength could maybe take over a portion of the other person's work and vice versa? Another simple tool, like we use the People Map assessment. That is such an eye-opening tool for our business owners because it divides people into 4 quadrants: leader, task, people, and free spirit. And it just gives a common language for everyone on the team to recognize strengths and Achilles heels. So our Achilles heels are our areas of weakness. And so it makes it easier to voice for a team member. It makes a team member easier to voice, wow, you know what, you're really having me work out of my Achilles heel about 80% of the day, and I don't like my job anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. So, with that in mind, and recognizing that there might be some changes that need to be made, and change and evolving business is kind of the overarching theme of this webinar series, let's talk about leadership. How do we as business owners lead effectively, especially in growing tour companies?
Okay, so leadership is a skill set that I don't think comes naturally to people. We can be leaders, like we just try to kind of walk around and tell people what to do, but that's not real leadership.
Mhm.
Real leadership is getting people to willingly get excited and want to do something and feel compelled because they have a real reason why it matters and why it's important. So we as leaders need to have a very clear vision of why we're doing what we're doing and what the big picture is, where we're trying to drive this business. And I think most of us on this call can be very honest. I know when I came into business, I didn't have a grand vision. I wanted to earn my paycheck so I could quit my job. I mean, that was my vision. Not at all inspiring, but it inspired me. But as we bring on team members, we really need to start thinking about, what am I going to do with this business as it grows, and what's the purpose? Are we in travel and tour? Is it about are we exposing people to new things that they would never experience otherwise? Are we showing them culture, and are they having experiences, and is that what we're about? Or are we about, who knows what else? But having a story, again, back to story, about who you serve and why and what your role matters is key. The next thing that happens is, when we bring on team members, we try to avoid meetings, because if any of us have ever had jobs before, most of the time we've been through tedious meetings and we hate meetings. And so our inclination is, I'm going to have a business that's not like the corporate world. We're not going to have meetings. Well, when you don't have meetings, a lot of things don't get expressed. We think a lot of things that never actually make it out of our mouth. And when I talk to business owners and their team members, the one problem that I hear consistently across the board is lack of communication and lack of systems for communication. A lot of other problems originate from those two things. And so when you start bringing on team members, I recommend that you have a weekly one-to-one meeting with the team members who report directly to you. In addition to that, you also want to have a weekly team meeting. So everyone in the business is coming together once a week. And then and that's where you're sharing information and things are getting discussed. You're talking about the vision, you're talking about the immutable laws, you're talking about the important things, that the projects that you're working on as a team, and moving that forward. That just starts to create a lot of clear communication about what's going on. In those one-to-one meetings, if you remember a little earlier in the webinar when I talked about hiring, and I said, you're hiring people for a result. Well, every week when you have a one-on-one, you're checking in with your team member on how they are doing in delivering that one result. And you're asking questions about, how did that go this week? What do you need from me to be more successful in this role? How can I support you? What challenges are coming up for you? I can't tell you, we have a growing business at Tap the Potential. I cannot tell you all the things that have surfaced in our one-on-one meetings that if we weren't having those one-on-one meetings, I would have never known about. And it's little tedious things that are blocking our team members' productivity and and we're virtual. So it creates a lot of frustration for them. I don't see any of it. So those one-on-one meetings are critical, because that's where I hear, oh, this little system, there's a breakdown here, and I need to bring in some IT support so we can figure this out so you can get things done in an easy way. So those are the critical things: the weekly meeting, the one-on-one, a clear vision, and then goal setting comes in there too. Talking to your team members about, in their role, how can they be better and better? What are the results that you're going after? And what do they want to do? And that leads into, how is this role that they're in this job with you, how is that serving their larger purpose and vision for their life? Because if we want to create a great place to work, we want a workplace where there is mutual support for goals and visions. If you want that team member to buy into your goals and visions, you need to buy in to what's important to them and support them achieving their goals.
Fantastic. I love the topic of leadership. It's one of my favorite things. I want to add one idea to that because one of my favorite kind of gurus in the accounting world, Ed Kless, did a fantastic webinar that I saw years ago on busting the top 10 myths of business. And one of the myths that he busted was the idea that leadership is about changing someone else's behavior. And he reframed that to say that leadership is not about changing someone else's behavior. Leadership, true leadership, is confronting others with their freedom, recognizing that freedom and accountability are the same thing. And this gets back actually into the webinar we just had this morning with Julianne Sullivan. She was talking about change, and she mentioned Viktor Frankl's book, A Man's Search for Meaning, and about how he, through his experience in the concentration camps, recognized that the one thing that people can never take away from us is our attitude. Our emotions, even our emotions, are made up of chemicals in our bodies. We don't have full control over our emotions. What we do have full control over at all times is our attitude, the way that we choose to respond in the given situation that we're in, how we choose to see that. And confronting people with their freedom, helping people to recognize that they're in full control of their choices and that they get to choose what freedom is for them. And that sometimes freedom may be, don't let the door hit you on the way out. Right. And that that's okay.
Yep,
the question is, do they actually want to be here?
Yes. Sometimes people need to be confronted.
Yeah. And confrontation, so many of us fail to lead effectively because we're avoiding confrontation. Confrontation is a positive interaction with a momentary negative emotional response.
Okay, Ingrid, say that again.
Confrontation is a positive interaction with a momentary negative emotional response. And if we can frame our discussions with our team members, with our families, it can be challenging to hold our friends and the people closest to us accountable. And we have to. We all need that reflection. We need that feedback. So it's important to be confronting each other with these important realizations and not holding a negative attitude where we sit there and have the self-talk in the back of our heads and, niggling these little thoughts and then gossiping them to other people. That's not helping anyone. If we focus on creating a positive interaction, sometimes the length of the momentary negative emotional response will vary widely depending on who it is you're having the confrontation with. Nonetheless, we have to try. Otherwise, we're not going to grow. We're not going to change. And we eliminate the opportunity for growth and change, not just for ourselves, but for everyone around us. Leaders are the ones that create the opportunities to grow and change, who create the opportunities for each of us to seize our freedom. And that is what it's really all about.
Yes. Wow. So I've heard you say that about confrontation multiple times, and it is such a powerful concept. So I hope everyone wrote that down and took some notes on that, because that is key to being a good leader in your business.
So with these leadership ideas in mind, what are some simple team building strategies that we can implement within our businesses so that we can start exercising those leadership muscles with easy things to begin with?
Yes. So, and simple and easy is the key operative word here, because you're busy, you're managing lots of things. You don't have time to be, or money even, to be doing these grandiose things. Like you can't afford to put a nap room in your business, or a ping pong table necessarily, so everybody can take breaks and play ping pong. We're not Google. So I want to give you some simple things. One of the things that we do at Tap the Potential is we have the Great Place to Work spotlight on our blog. And I invite you to go to tapthepotential.com and go to our blog and look at some of those to get ideas for simple things you can do. one example is a vision board exercise. So we at Ingrid, you've been at the retreat that we do here at Tap the Potential.
Love
We
it.
do this once a year for our business owners, and some of them go back and do the vision board exercises with their team. So the vision board is really what it sounds like. You get a poster board, you go through magazines, you pick out pictures that resonate with you, that tie to how you want to be in the world and what's in your experience and how you want to experience life. So our business owners have done that. Some of them, like Christine Arrow with Core Accounting, has gone back and had her team do the vision board exercise, but she had a challenge. She's virtual. So in her Great Place to Work Spotlight, she walked us through how she did a virtual vision board team building experience with her team. And it was really pretty neat. She gave them all the directions. She sent them gift cards to go to like Hobby Lobby or Office Depot and get all the scrapbooking supplies that they would like for their vision boards. And then many of them worked with their families at home on these vision boards and came back and talked about them. So that didn't cost a lot of money, but it created a lot of discussion on their team. Talk about a way of getting to know your fellow team members when you're talking about vision boards and things that are important to you. That builds a lot of cohesion. We have another client who features they do newsletters in their business, and they feature their team members, and they talk about, the gatherings that they have, and they share it in their newsletters. Those are simple things that you can do, but it builds a sense of cohesion. It builds a sense of here's who we are and this is our identity. So if you want more ideas, just hop on over to the blog at Tap the Potential and look for Great Place to Work Spotlight, and you'll find lots of them.
Wonderful. And so you mentioned before virtual teams, and I know you have a virtual team, and Vanessa and I have worked with several different virtual assistants in various areas over the years, and none of those relationships have been very successful. It's always been, if I'm hiring another professional and paying them professional rates, I expect them to know more about it than I do. But I tend to find that I end up paying somebody buckets of money before they prove themselves, just to find out that they don't actually have a clue what they're doing.
Yeah.
So what are some tips for finding the right virtual people for your team and creating cohesion among virtual team members?
Yeah, so I'm going to brag a little bit here. I have a virtual assistant who has been on my team. She was my very first person that I brought on. She's been with me, I think, 13 years now. It's a long, long time. And I used a lot of the how to hire the best strategies even before I knew what I was doing. It just kind of came to me that this would be the way to hire. And I was lucky. I have been lucky in that respect. When it goes back to the immutable laws, that you want to make sure you're hiring people who have good immutable laws. With virtual team, it's very critical that you use tools like we're using here, Zoom, so that there is that face-to-face interaction. It's great. Slack is another great communication tool, but having a face-to-face meeting, looking for the opportunities to get together in person at least once or twice a year, if you can do that. That builds the relationships. And I think that's really the key with virtual team is we have so many tools that make it easy for us to be disconnected from people. We need to be intentional about connecting.
And remind me, is your virtual assistant, is she a subcontractor or is she employed by your business?
She is an independent contractor.
Okay, fantastic. So how would a business owner begin to groom a rockstar employee to buy their business? I'm asking this partly because this is sort of the next section. We're going to be teaching a class on continuation and succession planning at the National Tour Association's Contact Conference. So I want to start planting the seeds for some of those discussions.
So I've worked with not lots of clients, but some clients in this situation, and I've seen some things go really well and I've seen some things not go well. And what goes really well is if you're picking somebody who really they have to be an A player and there is good fit with the immutable laws. And they need to be hungry for leadership. We teach a course at Tap the Potential called Leadership Boot Camp, where we teach what does it mean to lead in a small business? That's very different than leading in a large corporation. And if you think about it, none of us have ever learned anywhere in our education about how to be a good employee in a small business. So educating about some basic things that drive the business, such as profit, and why that's important. Your future team members that are coming up as leaders in the business, they need to understand what role profit plays, that you can't have a healthy business. Nobody has any job security if there's no profit in the business. So starting to translate some of the way that you as the business owner approach thinking about the business is going to be important. And again, doing it intentionally and mindfully, and having a plan, succession planning, but also having a plan for how you're going to make that training happen, and some milestones. Here's what I expect you to accomplish by when, and watch the progress, because it's very easy to keep kicking the can down the road and say, you know, I'm going to learn that, or I'm going to master that in a few months' time, and then that person never gets around to doing it. And that's where I've seen a lot of dissatisfaction happen on the part of the owners who are trying to make that succession planning happen.
That is such great information, Sabrina, and thank you so much. We've got 4 or 5 minutes left before we want to wrap up, so I want to make sure that our audience knows about some of the other educational opportunities that are coming up and where to find the other webinars in this series. Each element of this webinar series offer different pieces of insight, and they kind of build on each other, as you've seen, helping us implement the changes that we need in your business. So if you didn't get the chance to catch each of the 4 webinars live, I highly recommend catching the replay of them. The first one was Time and Team Management for the Business You Love with myself and Alyssa Keschel of the American Music Theater. And we did a fun overview of how you can use the Pareto principle and predictable success to increase your awareness of your effectiveness within your business and pinpoint areas where a little change might make a big difference. And then the second webinar, you can catch me and Les McCune, the author of Predictable Success, doing a deeper dive into the ideas of predictable success so that you can learn how to implement those ideas in your business so that you can grow and scale and succeed. And then just this morning, it was myself and Julianne Sullivan on transition prescription, navigating the dealing with the headache of change. So really, really fantastic tools on implementing change in your business, understanding what the roadblocks are that commonly prevent us from changing, and tools that we can use to overcome those roadblocks, because change is how we evolve and grow. And if we're not evolving, we're dying. So it's really important to make sure that we are growing and changing. And I'm so excited that we got to kind of top off our 4-part series here with Dr. Sabrina, talking about how to bring in the right team members and implementing change in our teams. Each of these is just such an important topic. And all of those kind of build up to what we're going to be discussing at the National Tour Association's Contact Conference in March. I will be teaching 2 sessions, one on continuation and succession planning for tours and activities companies, and another on how tour companies can survive the disruptions that technology is currently bringing to the industry. Both of those things require a bit of planning ahead and willingness to change and adapt to your business and your teams, having your teams on board for these changes. So we schedule each of these webinars to begin creating more fertile ground in our minds so that these seeds can really take root at Contact. So if you haven't yet registered for the NTA Contact Conference, I recommend checking it out. We hope that you'll take advantage of all of this great education that can help your business grow. And while you're at it, please also make sure to join our Facebook group. It's Facebook.com/groups/tour strategy, where you can have discussions with other members of the industry, ask questions, keep this conversation rolling, so that if you've got a question about your team, we can make sure to connect you with Sabrina, and sign up for our newsletter so that you can stay in the loop on other webinars and educational opportunities that we may be offering in the future. Visit our website, polymath.com, for free articles, videos, and other resources like our tour app study, which we're about to launch. I think I talked about this with you at one point, Sabrina, and we're rebranding it as the Booking Reservation Atlas. Atlas stands for Apps for Tours, Leisure, and Activities Sales. We want to help you find the right software that will help your business grow, and we've got a great free tool to help you do that. And last but not least, if you think you might like a guide on your adventure through the lands of business finance, Polymath does offer a free initial consultation where we can see if we might be a good fit for your business. We want you to find the best possible fit for your needs, even if it's not with us. So to start that process, you can visit our website, polymath.com, and click the big green Get Started button to fill out the new client questionnaire. So with that, Sabrina, if our participants here today want help with hiring, what resources do you have for us?
Okay, the best place to go is howtohirethebest.com. That's where you can access my free masterclass. I have a course that goes behind the masterclass if you're interested in that. And then also check out my main website, tapthepotential.com. That's where we offer our small group coaching to small business owners. And we have the Profit by Design podcast, where we talk all the time about designing a sustainably profitable business that lets you live the lifestyle you desire, which sounds a lot like for travel and tourism. Could fit very nicely in there.
Fantastic. So I don't see any questions in the chat. What I do see is Darren said that he's already registered for 2 of Sabrina's streams and will try to access the 10K stream on a later date. So thank you so much for those. That's exciting that our participants have already found your website and dug into your materials.
Great. Thank
Wonderful.
you, Darren.
And with that, we are pretty much on the hour. So thanks everyone so much for being here with us today. And I really hope that I get to see you at the National Tour Association's Contact Conference. And if not there, on another webinar in the future. And thanks so much, Sabrina, for being here with us today. This was great information, and I always love working with you.
Thank you. It was delightful to be here.
Have a great day, everyone.